Hey, you're watching Rapid MMA. I'm Tyler. We're going to quickly run through the card for UFC Fight Night 82. And I'll give my thoughts on some fights, who stood out, and discuss what could be next. Thanks for participating in the comments section, by the way. A lot of interesting topics and points were made. So let's get to it. But before we get to the actual card, let's discuss some recent news briefly that was kind of clarified today. First, Yoel Romero. It turns out that it was actually contaminated product that he was using, but not self-contaminated. It seems that the actual product he was using was contaminated because USADA went out, did their own research with this particular product, and turns out there was a contamination in there. And it kind of raises a question just for me personally. Let's say if it's some kind of, it is a supplement, so I'm guessing some kind of shake, maybe a powdered shake, something along those lines. And brings up the question, besides Yoel Romero, maybe he is using PEDs regardless, but I'm wondering if there's a lot of products out there that aren't listing things that are actually in the product. In other words, there's always a nutrition label and then there's the ingredients label. Are companies going out of their way to quote unquote contaminate their product so that way they get results that otherwise wouldn't occur if they hadn't put the contaminated supplement in there? And if that's true, fighters, not only should the companies be pursued legally by maybe the FDA, but on top of that, fighters really need to be even more aware of what the hell they're putting in their body. USADA tests any product that you give them. That should be taken advantage of all the time, especially if companies are saying that their products are all organic and they're listing the ingredients, but they're actually not listing certain things they're putting in there. I don't like the word contaminated. I don't like that they're using the word contaminated, especially if USADA is testing these products independently and finding unlisted supplements in there. So I would say that companies are cheating it, actually, and that is very dangerous. If you don't know what you're putting in your body, these companies are adding things that are not listed on the label, that has to be illegal, that should be pursued, and these companies should immediately be going out of business. I'm not saying that's the case, but that's what it sounds like. And I don't like the word contamination, but for Yoel Romero, it is his responsibility. USADA, the Fighter Summit, I'm pretty sure it's been discussed plenty of times. If you have a product and you're not sure about it, you can have it tested by USADA. So that way you're in the clear. It is Yoel's responsibility. And I'll just leave it at that. Jon Jones, traffic violation. It's as simple as that. Listen, Jones is dumb. He really needs, well, like dumb in a sense of like he makes bad decisions. He's a great fighter, but these bad decisions seriously need to be cleaned up at this point in his life. Little things, just little things. If you don't have little things taken care of, like having your license registration on you when you're driving. I don't care if you live 2 blocks from the gym and you're driving back and forth. You need to have that stuff. These are just basic, common things. And if he doesn't have these kind of things squared away by now, I just don't know what the future holds for him. And I'm the last one. If you ask me, hey, what do you think about Jon Jones and him I just don't care. I really just don't care. But when it affects his ability to enter the octagon, because Jon Jones is top 5 favorite fighter of all time and probably the best fighter ever, regardless. If he can't compete because he keeps making really silly, stupid decisions, it really sucks. It sucks for everyone. Sucks for his fans. Sucks for the sport. He's very creative. Everybody can learn a lot from him, but it's just this has to be cleaned up on his part. So that's all I really wanted to talk about briefly. Let's get to the card, starting with Artem Lobov versus Alex White. I must admit, I didn't really know a lot about Alex. I didn't do any research. I just picked Lobov because really, who cares? And he swings. He's fun to watch. And yeah, I just figured maybe he'd win. That's who I picked. I didn't put any stock into it, but I was very surprised once the fight ended how Alex was able to move. I liked his angles, his footwork. So I'm looking forward to his next fight for sure. For Lobov, he was simply outclassed. White is not a good matchup for that style, and coincidentally, there were some sources that said that White was a perfect matchup for Lobov, and totally wasn't. He had no answers. Great fight. Can't wait for Alex White's next. And you know what? That really does a lot for him, since Lobov has a ton of eyes on him. Alex White really comes away looking with a lot more stock to his name. Next, Mickey Gall won. He fights CM Punk. Cool. I don't really care. Anyone who's been around the amateur or regional professional MMA knows that this fight will generate interest, but the fight itself, I'm not saying it will suck, but I'll watch it for the same reason I watch James Toney or Kimbo Slice face Dada 5000 or Kem Shan. You know, it's kind of one of those fights until Mickey Gall gets past this kind of lower tier, bottom B-list fighter thing. And who knows, CM Punk might win, but even if he does, I don't care really that CM Punk won. The people that care are people who are very casual sports fans. So I'll just leave it at that. Diego Rivera's flying knee KO Noad Lahad in fucking devastating fashion. Lahad's habits and patterns were once again exploited, as this is his second time losing via flying knee. Lahad looked okay. Second round came around, all the patterns were read, and Diego knocked him out. Simple as that. Now, the next fight, Justin Scoggins, easily my fighter of the card, and I'm kind of taking that from Luke Thomas. I think he does a fighter of the card, but I think, and this is my first time doing it, because I really feel like Justin Scoggins comes away smelling like roses here. I thought he looked fucking outstanding. Takedown defense was there. Distance management, shot selection, movement, everything was there. I was so impressed with him. His post-fight interview was great, and his post-fight media scrum was interesting. He seems like a very smart kid. He's got a team behind him managing his weight and nutrition, which a lot of fighters don't even have. I mean, I'm hearing Berkman, who's a vet, struggling with his weight. He cut 18 pounds. I very much side with Mike Dolce and his outlook on how weight management should be, and it's a lifestyle. It's not, hey, I'm gonna walk around 200 pounds, then cut down to 170, 2 weeks out. That's just ridiculous. It seems Scoggins might walk around a little bit heavy, but not so heavy that it's unbearable for him to perform that night. He has his weight and nutrition on point. He has a team. He said scientists behind him. That's so important in my opinion, and something a lot of fighters just don't have. So, upcoming or veterans for that matter. And we see it with Johny Hendricks. So he has his goal set for the year. He wants more. He wants to fight more. He wants to have the title by the end of the year. Something simple as goals not even fighters speak about. They don't put out there, or they just don't have them. And I think that's very important. Ask Conor McGregor about that. Goal-driven fighters who have their priorities straight, they're scary, and you can just see it. I think Scoggins is someone to really watch out for. And Ray Borg was the one coming into that fight with the most name value. As far as I heard, everywhere that I looked, it was all about Ray Borg, and I picked him just for that simple matter, because I didn't come in looking at a lot of these lower tier. I usually don't. I don't really care about the preliminary fights unless, they really catch my attention. And this was it. Justin Scoggins has my attention. Very excited to see where he goes from here. Next up, Derek the Black Beast Lewis is my new favorite heavyweight. I think Ben Rothwell is kind of taking over the heavyweight scene because he's quirky, but Derek Lewis, man, I think he is awesome. He's the kind of fighter that takes risks and they pay off. Excellent takedown defense against this particular fighter. Tremendous power. A self-proclaimed shy person that shines when he's in the cage. I like Derek Lewis. Who knows how far he goes, but he looked much better. He keeps evolving. This is by far his best performance, and he's got a great storyline, so can't wait for his next fight. I think Ariel Helwan said that he would like him matched up against Roy Nelson. I'm down for that. I'm down for that all day. And right off the bat, I think Lewis actually wins that fight. You know, it's a heavyweight division, so it's really, I always say this, it's a flip of the coin. But if you were to really kind of sit down and look at it, how Roy Nelson looks recently, it's low output, counter striking, and Derek Lewis shines when that happens. I mean, he just puts a hurt on his opponents and looks better and better every time we see him. Berkman versus Nunes was a good fight. I think Berkman needs to get his weight cutting and nutrition squared away with a solid plan. I said this with Scoggins. He said himself it was difficult cut 18 pounds like within 24 hours. That's just ridiculous. He needs to change his diet. He needs to not look at weight cutting so much, otherwise he'll turn into Johny Hendricks. This needs to be squared away. He needs to only cut a little bit. He needs to change his diet. That's just my opinion though. Especially at his age, with his experience, the lighter you go down, I truly believe this, and I'm pretty sure it's scientific fact. If it's not, I imagine it'll be proven. If you are cutting a lot of weight, your chin goes away with it, and you're just not going to be able to take as good of a punch because there's less fluid surrounding your brain protecting it. That's what I hear, and I've heard it from multiple sources, so I'm just going to go with that. And there's no doubt, if you're cutting a lot of weight, you just don't feel as optimal as you could if you have a better diet or you're fighting more at your natural weight. Your muscles are there. They don't ache. You don't have a headache. And you're not so worried overall about cutting that weight, so you can focus more on other things. So that's my opinion. Berkman, he looks all right. Still too early to see how far he goes in this division. Sean Spencer versus Mike Pyle. Pyle's Muay Thai style earned him a victory. I knew this would be a hard fight, and Spencer looked good early, but he just ate too many knees, too many elbows, and took too long. His output started to wane as it went farther into the rounds, and that's just... Mike Pyle looked awesome. A lot of respect to Pyle. He's a vet, and yeah, excited for his next fight. And he knows there's not much time, but I'm excited to see Sean Spencer fight again. He fought a tough guy. It seemed like he strayed a bit away from his game plan. So Sean Spencer's still someone I look forward to fight as well. And Mike Pyle, 40 years old. Awesome. So no disrespect to Nicholson, but he was just outclassed by Serkinov. There was a spinning back fist attack or some kind of spinning attack from him like every minute in that fight, it felt like. And Serkinov ducked it and took him down pretty much every time, or he capitalized, or Nicholson just completely whiffed on it. And that could just be him with a lack of preparation. Maybe didn't quite study, or maybe he did study Serkinov and saw that was a viable option, but after like 2-3 times, Nicholson, it was just not landing. And yeah, you don't want to be that sloppy with Serkinov. So Serkinov, probably could have ended that in the first round, in my opinion. And I don't think he wanted to. I think he said that in the post-fight interview. He said, well, in my past fight, I come out looking to finish in the first round, and he wanted to kind of hold off on it. So if that's the case, wow, that is scary. If you're gonna, essentially kind of toy with someone and decide when you want to end it. A little bit, risky doing that. That makes me question Serkinov's fight IQ, but in there he looked great. He's fighting out of Canada, so I imagine Ariel Helwan will be keeping his eyes on him very closely, since Helwani's been looking for Canadian prospects. So that'll be interesting to see. I like Serkinov. Didn't really care coming in, but he's got my attention now, just like Scoggins. Benavidez did exactly what I thought, stuffed takedowns and worked Makovsky on the feet. He was taken down a few times, which was to be expected, and it just became very noticeable. You could tell Benavidez was picking up on it. Anytime Benavidez threw a combo or came in, Makovsky did the same thing. He dug down, tried to clinch. So Makovsky, I think he'll watch that fight, realize that there's some work to be done on the feet. He wasn't bad, but you're not gonna crack that title contendership if you're if you're gonna have that kind of style on the feet, more movement, more of a defense in the striking realm is what he needs to work on. Different options, because just going for that takedown becomes predictable. Benavidez saw that and won the fight. And Benavidez looks great, by the way. Very happy that he graduated essentially from alpha male. There's no stability there, it sounds like. All the fighters say the same thing. They're lacking a coach. You can't have different coaches coming in and out. You need stability when you're a fighter. That you can, there's fighters that do jump from camp to camp, but it kind of works. They'll train there for like a month or two. If you're at the same gym and coaches are coming in and out, that is a different story, because fighters really rely on personalized training when you're at the top tier. They really look for a solid foundation, and if you don't have that, and alpha male sounds like it doesn't have it essentially, and it hasn't had it for a little while, especially pre and post Dwayne Ludwig. I think that is a big reason why fighters are kind of looking elsewhere. That could be totally false too, but that's what it sounds like. Ovince St. Preux basically fought himself that night. The only damage that was done to Ovince was self-inflicted, other than a few leg kicks. But that was after St. Preux hurt himself by rolling his ankle, allegedly. So Cavalcante threw a few leg kicks, and I don't mean to be disrespectful, but I think this was about the consensus is that he just didn't look like he wanted to be there, didn't have the motivation, maybe he was injured, just did not look good, did not look UFC caliber for that matter. And if that injury didn't happen, I guarantee Ovince St. Preux would have ended that in the first or the second round. Just Cavalcante, I don't know if that was his game plan, it was a bad game plan. It looked like a hybrid of Ryan Bader fighting Ovince St. Preux and also like Houston Alexander trying to fight Kimbo Slice. And if you remember that fight, Houston Alexander did not fight. He did not engage Kimbo Slice at all, except for like circling around the octagon and then kicking him in the leg every like minute or so. That was the same game plan. And I think Houston Alexander was cut after that fight. And I expect near the same thing with Cavalcante. Unless he's got a good excuse or his contract states otherwise, I think the UFC lets him go. Nelson versus Rosholt. I like Nelson. I think Rosholt is a good wrestler. That fight was another one that didn't really mean much. Nelson gets a win under his belt. But Rosholt is basically still in the same spot. I don't know. Didn't really care, honestly. I'm more excited to see Lewis fight Roy Nelson. So there's that. Stephen Thompson did exactly what I thought, and that was stuff takedowns and chip Hendricks apart. However, I did not think that fight would end quite like that, as opposed to some people in the comments. I'm not looking at the comments right now, but you know who you are if you're watching this. Someone, and also on MMAfighting.com, I posted my video there, and there's a few comments where somebody said they don't think Stephen Thompson can make it to a split decision, which I still disagree with. I still think he could have gotten there, but they said instead if he does win, it will be by knockout. And whoever it was on the YouTube channel that said Hendricks is overrated, I replied with the word weird comment, because I didn't think Hendricks was overrated at all. I think he's rated where he should be, really. I think he did all the things he said he would do. Go beat up GSP, and he had a tough war with Lawler and Condit. He looks good. So, but in that fight, there was arguments immediately everywhere, and this must be just casual MMA fans or something saying that, well, without Hendricks on PEDs, that's how he's gonna look. Sure, but I'm the same way. I'm gonna be the same way all the time. There's no evidence. You can say, well, look, or see how he performs, but where's the physical evidence? That's just a silly thing to say, so I don't consider it. If I were to say something, it would be Johny Hendricks and his diet. I still think his diet takes up a lot of what's going on. He's struggled with it with his whole career. He's a big guy cutting a lot of weight, and I think this is his first time fighting as light as he has on this new diet. I think there was changes in his camp. I just don't think this was a focused Hendricks. Now, besides that, I think Thompson deserves way more credit too. And this is really the biggest reason in my opinion. Hendricks had no entry. He didn't create entry because he didn't have time to create entry. And by entry, I mean the takedown. And then there was a comment where it's like, I think I removed it from the YouTube channel because the guy was just stupid. Saying, well, without his PEDs, he would have taken down Thompson and lifted him up and dropped him on his head with his PEDs. Yeah, maybe if that was the style of takedown. But if you look at the takedown, Thompson had a whizzer, Hendricks had an underhook, and he was going more for he was trying to muscle him down with his left arm and kind of go for a knee pick and drag his arm or his leg out and kind of dump him on his butt that way. That wasn't a position. Hendricks wasn't in a position to lift Thompson up. He didn't have his hands clasped. He wasn't going for a single leg or a double leg takedown. He didn't have his hips in control. Hendricks kind of just found himself in that position after engaging in the clinch because he had Thompson against the cage, and he tried to drag him down to the ground. Now Thompson deserves credit for defending that takedown. He had the whizzer. He kept his balance. He was able to explode out once he regained composure using the fence to crawl back up and explode out, get the center of the octagon. Very clearly, he was working on that. Was that Hendricks' best takedown? No, because it wasn't really a takedown attempt to start off with. He kind of just went for it when he was in the clinch. So there's that. I think if the fight went longer, Hendricks without a doubt would have got some takedowns, but Thompson did what he needed to do in that first takedown attempt. He deserves credit for that. And then he kept Hendricks on the outside perfect, did exactly what I thought. Elite movement, great shot selection, great timing. And Hendricks could not figure it out. He did not have a good game plan coming in. And that is that in my opinion. Talk about PEDs somewhere else. Maybe it has something to do with it. Maybe he fails the drug test. I have no idea. I just don't think that was the case. If Hendricks was on PEDs and he was as big as he was before, I still don't think he gets that takedown. Not that particular one. And I still think he loses that fight the same exact way with that same game plan. I think the big problem there was Hendricks' game plan, because I don't think he really spent time working on one. I think a lot of other factors were bothering him this camp. End of story for me. So I wouldn't mind if Thompson gets the title shot. I have my eyes on Demian Maia and interested in seeing how Neil Magny performs against Lombard. The division gets really interesting at this point. Maia could fight Woodley. Thompson could beat Lawler. Lawler could win by KO. Who knows where GSP fits in if he comes back? I have my doubts about that. We don't know what Carlos Condit has decided, so there's a lot of moving parts, but I'll say this. At this point, I'm interested in Demian Maia and Neil Magny because I think both of them, especially Neil Magny, match up great against Thompson. Yeah, I think that's really about it. That's all I really want to discuss with this. So, I mean, you could disagree with me about Johny Hendricks, cool with that. But I'm very interested to see. I think Thompson gets a title shot, honestly. That's what I think happens. Woodley, been out too long. Fan interest isn't there. I think he fights someone else, and I kind of wonder if I would like to see Demian Maia versus Tyron Woodley. I think that'd be a fun fight, and I think Neil Magny destroys Lombard, in my opinion. More on that when that fight occurs. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you for sticking around. Hopefully, I made a lot of sense. This is not so sharp and scripted, and this is my first take on it. So thank you for watching. Subscribe, like, hate me. Leave it all in the comment section below.